sometimes you gotta pray for a victory. Yeah, I'm overzealous when I'm thinking about the cash flow. I never had
Hey,
no
what's up, everybody?
handouts,
It's
just came
Andrew with
natural.
Fact Advisors. And honestly, I'm here remote in California working for the last few weeks. But always joined with me is Dan. Dan, say what's up to everybody, man.
How's it going? I'm on location as well, hiding out up in Flagstaff and working from here, making trips to Colorado and to New Mexico, kind of all over the place. So I'm kind of remote up in a cabin, hiding in the closet here,
Right.
closet
Hey,
studio.
man, got to do what we got to do when we're away from home and with the studio. And it's
Absolutely.
kind of it's kind of that's a really good jump off point for us. I mean, we've done a lot of stuff, whether it was at CES with TCL, we are at AHR, we were at Hardy. Like, we've kind of been moving and grooving for the last 6-7 months now. Um, maybe like almost 9 months, honestly. But we've never really kind of told the story about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and kind of why it was the perfect, you know, culmination of the last 6-7 years. Um, and so I thought maybe like today, for kind of, instead of just, we do a lot of stuff with the social side, but actually like a first full-blown episode of, what's new, and what's new with FAFO and Fact Advisors, kind of who we are, what we're doing. So I know we've told the story a little bit, but you know, obviously with Fact Advisors, we do a lot more than just talk about heating and air conditioning products, or, rep the different products that we do. Like, we look at the service after the sales side, we lean contractor first. And that's really because of the platform that we built the advisory side of Fact Advisors on. And that's really the Worth Becoming platform that you've put together over the last, like, how many years have you been doing Worth Becoming and kind of developing that whole
Yeah.
SOP?
So Worth Becoming, was originally founded in 2006. So
Oh, that's right.
it's,
Yeah, yeah.
20 years. You know,
Right.
we got 2 decades of consulting and advisory work across all different industries, all different types of startups, high
Hmm.
performing entrepreneurs, et cetera, things we've worked with on that front. So we've got 2 decades worth of experience of analyzing data, gathering
Right.
data, and then applying execution plans to that for startups, small businesses, all the way up to Fortune 100 companies. We've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really, really big brands out there.
Right. Right.
And so, I think that's a big value proposition, to the Fact Advisor side, right? So we have this whole thing over here that has just a massive amount of experience and background, uh, and that isn't really present necessarily in your average sales agency or, you know,
Right.
consultancy inside of just HVAC. Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, I think that's one of the things that sets us apart, is that we're obviously bringing, really kind of differing worlds together, right? Coming from the home services side, where I've been for the last 25 years, you've been at the last 7 years, but your 2 decades long experience in consulting and brand strategy and go to market strategy, it kind of, bled over into each other. And this opportunity, obviously, to start Fact Advisors was kind of just the perfect timing. I mean, I think I see, and I know you do too, and I'll let you kind of speak to that, but there is a huge opportunity inside of this space to kind of get leaner, get faster, get better. And that's not just from operating companies, that's from the rep firm side. Um, what were some of the insights and things that you took away from Hardy that really kind of keyed in on what you do and what you're looking at while we're scaling and developing and growing Fact Advisors?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things takeaways from Hardy this year, right, was the real forward looking,
Hmm.
um, taking backwards data from last year and forward looking into this year, and the fact that everybody kind of sees it as a flat environment to slightly down or slightly up for the year. But the revenues have been that way really because of price increases, and earlier this year it was all about tariffs, everything else, right? um, and
Right.
then that story shifted, but the prices didn't change, right? So the prices are still inflated, the prices are still what they are, and that's driving whatever revenue level growth we're seeing in the industry. It's not actual unitary demand, it's not actually large ticket items or anything like that. It's just overall price increases. So demand is actually down to flat to down, realistically, when it talks about unitary product, right? And even most distributors were anticipating that they would be flat to down. Well, in that type of environment, regardless of industry, the only way to grow, to continue growth in a flat or downward environment, is to gain market share. It's to take it from someone else, right? You have to go out and win the battle for your consumer. And in a distributor's case, that's the contractors. Mind share and their share of their right. But if you're just waiting for someone to come in the door, if you're not out there hunting and out there getting it, you're not gonna grow in this environment. It's impossible to do that. And so I think it's important for distributors in particular, and especially newer distributors. They're only 1, 2, 3 years into this
Mhm.
market. Let's say HVAC, for example. If they're newer in that market, to really understand where that market's at and understand that their original launch plans may not be exactly what they needed. They may need to really address a very, very particular contractor engagement, contractor acquisition strategy above what they originally planned. Because we're no longer in this, 20, 21, even parts of 22, really was this big wave of, you know, increased demand, increased spending.
Mhm.
It was, all a rising tide that lifted all ships, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Now that tide's not rising at all. So if you want to keep growing, you're gonna have to figure out how to do that yourself, and do it better than your competitor, right?
Right.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things, takeaways from the outlook on Hardy. That was one of the big ones that I had is like, okay, now if you flip that into an operating company mindset, let's move from distributor to operating a contractor, right? Same thing applies.
Mhm.
You want to grow your business, you have to go get more consumers, more customers, and you got to figure out your revenue mix. You might be able to keep your revenue stable or growing if you get really good at a repair first mindset rather than a replace first mindset. Because you're meeting a consumer where they want to be. They're at a point where their spending pattern, their behavior pattern is repair first, not replace. And you need to have a strategy that allows you to win and make money and protect margin in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, being able to dissect all of that is really where I think we have found kind of our foothold and why we're making the moves and we're seeing the progress that we are as a newer rep firm. A lot of the rep firms that we talk to are, second and third generation, right? They've been in business
Right,
30, 40, 50
right.
years.
Yep,
And I think that focusing on these things, not only with the distributors, but with the contractors, is really, really helping them understand like, hey, this is no longer you're just selling an HVAC part or you're just working on a heating and air conditioning unit. Like you have to now start thinking about your business and the function of your industry like a CEO, because, you and I both know the influx of private equity into the space, not only just from the operator side, but the distribution side as well.
right. I mean,
And
that's a
so all of
major
these,
takeaway, like
yeah.
also from, several of the conferences we were at, is just seeing the number of private equity deals in the distributor side, right? They're moving up the
Hmm.
food chain from contractor to the wholesale distribution side and acquiring and operating there for margin instead
Hmm.
of on the contractor side. That type of a shift is really unique, you know,
Yeah.
um,
And
and
I
it's
mean,
going
and
to
that's
change
such a,
the lay of the land, right?
yeah. And that's such a huge thing too. Like, I mean, and it's great to have your perspective on this and being, one of the co-founders of the company. I think this is again why we're in such a very, very good spot. Private equity. I mean, that is a huge discussion. It's a huge thing that people think about,
Yep.
talk about. Um, pontificate about on all the social platforms.
Right.
Um, where do you see it? I mean, the reality of it is private equity, good or bad, and how is it changing? I mean, I know I have kind of my feelings on it, but coming from the trade, but because you have been in that world for so many years,
Right.
what are your thoughts? Like private equity entering the space, both on the contractor and distribution side.
So again, we saw a big rush of private equity deals, kind of what I call the COVID years, right?
Right. Yep.
And they were big ones, and they were huge valuations, and we know a lot of those are somewhat underwater, right? That they're having trouble. Those top line numbers came way down.
Right.
Well, how do we get that margin compression in there with costs coming up? How are you able to price that through to the consumer? There's a lot of cases out there that are difficult, I think, right now to see those companies flip. You may see
Right.
a couple of down rounds there that are challenging. On the other side, and we've seen a couple bankruptcies, right, of the private equity
Right.
bought groups actually declaring bankruptcy. On the contractor side, right? We're
Hmm.
seeing less of that at the wholesale side, right? And that's because they're buying businesses that are a little more sticky, that have navigated, real economic cycles. Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, which in several of the cases on the contractor side, those groups had not been around long enough for a true full economic cycle, right?
Right. Yep.
Um, when you're looking at a distributor with real assets, inventory, commonly they own a building, all these things, it's a different model. It's more favorable to a private equity group. Um, Big keys though are, if you're looking to sell into private equity or work with private equity, you really have to acknowledge the forces behind that model,
Hmm.
the levers that are being pulled, that are being, the pressure, the person making the decision, what they're under. And those are very different when you're talking to somebody who's perhaps a solo operator, or even like a local branch or local company type
Right.
situation. Those types of distributors can make decisions in a much more nuanced way.
Hmm.
Whereas with a PE firm, like, it's pretty straightforward. You are going to hit numbers. Here are the numbers. Figure it out. If so, what we're seeing now is they're having to get a lot smarter about how to train guys to go out there and get new contractors and really build that. And they're having to find new products and alter their product line and offerings to protect margin. Because at the end of the day, they're a
Yeah.
margin-based business that has to sell off of that valuation off the margin, right? So
Yep.
they are monitoring that beyond all else, and that will dictate purchasing decisions. It will dictate line card, what they're going to
Hmm.
represent, what they're going to carry.
Absolutely.
And so if they are carrying, several of these groups are carrying products that in the last few years, equipment wise, right, it got down into low double digits, maybe even high single digits on margin.
Right.
That situation is not going to be sustainable for a PE bought out company. There's no way that's going to give them the multiple growth that they need to exit that investment successfully in their typical 5 year to 10 year horizons, right? Or even
Right.
3 to 5 year horizons in a lot of cases. So those things are going to change. And if you can help that operator, whoever's in charge of that PE group in that location, you can help them find that margin, protect it, and provide real customer attraction and customer acquisition, then you're providing real value to that company. But you have to understand that the buyer is different.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is when it boils down to it, I think that's where a lot of people start getting that visceral reaction to the term private equity,
Mhm.
because now it is thinking about margins. It is thinking about profitability and scalability and all of these things, where for so long this industry has kind of been like, yo, I'm going to write this down on a piece of paper real fast, or I'm going to run an ad in the yellow pages and kind of just do my thing because I'm good at X, Y, and Z. Right.
Right.
And so a lot of people feel that that's trickling out into the operating side of the world, where,
Mhm.
it's sales, 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 sales. You're seeing that in the, wholesale and distribution side, you know, but I think it has its place, right? I think private equity, for all of its, folly and all of its issues, there are some, right? And listen, we still don't know what, BlackRock and everybody knows what their latest $2.5 billion acquisition,
Right.
right?
Right. Just massive operating
Yeah.
company acquisition, right? Huge.
Yeah. And so, but I think it's also done a lot to drive the industry forward a little bit. And that's something you and I have always talked about, is this industry is so far behind. I mean, bro, like 3, 4 years ago, people were still talking about running ads, in print or
Right.
in some sort of yellow pages or directory.
Hmm.
And I think with the private equity and those people, it is doing some good things to push the innovation, to push the envelope when it comes to technology adaptation, like all of those things. It has its place, and I think it's doing a good job doing that. But I think there's some like dangers in it. Like, what do you see as some of the, like, we know the profitability side, the accountability that
Well,
a PE brings. What are some of
let
like
me let
the
me let me go
dangers?
on that BlackRock topic for a second.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And let me frame it maybe a way that's not very popular in the industry, right? It's definitely not
Right.
popular from our operating background history,
Yep.
right? Okay, there's the little guy versus all the big guys and blah blah blah. and there's no such thing as good private equity, right?
Right.
In
Right.
in a lot of contractors' minds, right? Okay,
Absolutely. Yep.
unless you sold out to them and then you're very happy with private equity, right? Uh,
Facts.
but let's look at something here. They paid $2.5 billion
Hmm.
for a company. Okay, here's the thing. BlackRock's not in the business of just buying something to put it on the shelf and collect it.
Right. Absolutely.
Why did they buy this? What motivated them to spend that amount of money? And the answer is that they believe there is a business there that can grow, that they can improve, that they can make a difference to, whether that is growing the top line or whether that is growing the bottom line by fixing the margin loss in that business. They have a plan to make that business more valuable and sell it for a multiple. That's not 10% more. They want to sell it for an X,
Right.
2X, 3X, 4X, more than what they paid. So the question is who at this incredibly large, brilliant, whether you like them or not, brilliant company that's really good at
Right.
growing money, who thinks they could sell that company for $10 billion in 5 years? And
Hmm.
how do you think they're going to do that? And so if you start thinking about that, they are going to bring in AI. They have an entirely self-driven AI platform that they've built, everything else that builds on operating systems in multiple industries and can be applied to whatever they choose to point it at. Let's talk about that. How does that affect the industry? The bottom line is every other deal, if you can't compete with those types of technologies coming into the space,
Right.
those guys are going to figure out how to protect their margin even in this environment. They're going to see it coming. They're going to make the tough decisions, and it's going to be very cold and calculated, and they're just going to do it. Bottom
Hmm.
line is they bought that with a viewpoint on a way that they were going to get that multiple. Now, I don't know whether they just thought, hey, it's a good time to buy this, fix it up, get those margins higher. And
Right.
when the market comes back fully into spending on equipment, spending on replacement, the next cycle, we'll just ride that up and we'll be fine and we'll take care of us. I don't know if that's their thesis. But
Yeah.
either way, they see growth opportunities. And we know they see the ability to uh, streamline and optimize efficiencies utilizing AI and technology in this space.
Hmm.
And when you have somebody with that type of money and that type of capital, they're going to implement that and go no matter what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So pay attention to it. If you can follow along, you don't necessarily have to have their capital stack to apply the mindset a little bit of what am I doing to make my business more efficient? What am I doing to make my distributorship more efficient? Where am I losing, giving up margin that I should not be? Where could technology help on that? And what is my game plan to make my company from whatever it is today worth 4 times that in 5 years or whatever?
Right.
Because somebody else is doing it.
Hmm.
So you need to be paying attention. So I think it could push the industry forward in a big way and maybe even provide roadmaps of how AI can make things more efficient. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
more importantly, like you said, it's the mindset side of things, right? It's making decisions on the products you carry, the products you offer,
yep,
the the different tools that are out there that maybe you're not looking into yet. I mean, I would always tell you like, hey, there's contractors that are this guy, they're a train guy, or they're a carrier dealer. Like these were all nomenclatures and badges that contractors, distributors, and all of that held for so many years. But really, what is that doing for you at this point in time? Right? If you're not
mhm,
reading the tea leaves and saying, listen, there's price increases happening every 6 months or every quarter in some cases, like a lot of manufacturers that are out there,
mhm,
right? 6, 7% outpacing inflation, outpacing rise in metal costs, and
mhm,
outpacing any tariffs that are remaining, right? You have to start to asking like who's got my back and who has my best interests in my business and in my offering, and those are the mindsets and the positions that a lot of these private equity groups are doing because they're coming from these different industries. And I think that's a
right.
lesson that a lot of our world still has to learn, right? Like don't be reliant upon this brand just because it's been X brand for so long. Look at the alternatives. Like what
Right.
else is available that can push you to a point of where you're profitable, where you're
Yep.
backing a great product with, great support. And I think it's all of those things that, kind of guide us when we're looking at what products we offer and what we're looking at repping and taking to market. So like that's how I know we look at this a lot. What about how to coach up somebody, in the distributor, in the trainings that we do? What have you found like the most impactful thing that you can point to for a contractor or a solopreneur to look at when looking at different product lines and product manufacturers that perhaps we offer that they haven't even heard of yet?
So I think one of the big things that we have to focus on with them is margin, right?
Right.
And so I think that that's one of the biggest things of what brands are bringing innovative products to market in a way and providing services in an innovative way that
Hmm.
allows you to make more money at the bottom line, not just the top, right? Because
Right.
again, we're
Absolutely.
hitting the ceiling of pressure where consumers are fatigued. We all know the consumer spending issues, all that, right?
Yep.
The sentiment is coming way down. So, but there's still a need, right? Especially if
Hmm.
you're in some of the Southwest where our territories are, everything else, like it's 100 and whatever degrees today.
Right.
You know,
I mean,
you
I don't
need
know, bro.
AC. So
It's
you're
like
going to do,
it's like
customers
68
are going to do
degrees
something about it,
in
right?
Orange County right now, so I'm kind of
Well,
chilling, but
you're chilling. You don't have to worry about that. But,
right.
the people in Phoenix hate you.
Yeah. Facts.
Um, but, it's one of those things. There's still a demand. It's just different. So you have to figure out what product mix protects your ability to make margin, right? And you can grow your net profitability and the valuation of your company by expanding your margin. But
Hmm.
you can't expand your margin with technology that hasn't changed in 20 years. You can't
Right.
protect your margin with um, brands that charge a premium but don't provide a premium product you could charge more for, right?
Yeah.
When you're just paying for that name or that tag, we talk about this with the private equity groups that sponsor stadiums
Hmm.
and, $100 million, a year businesses that spend 10, 15, 20 million in advertising. Well, the
Yep.
consumer's paying for that, right? Some way, right? They have to get that back.
Right.
Um, you know, when you think about it, you know, the same thing with equipment companies, right? They have a big brand name that they're promoting. You're paying for this big brand name, but if they haven't improved their technology, if they haven't improved their manufacturing processes to limit, callbacks, to limit repairs, to make their equipment more reliable, more affordable, which we are not seeing anyone try to play that game right now.
Right.
Which is why there's a lawsuit or 6 lawsuits, something like that, class action suits against manufacturers jointly raising prices. We'll
Hmm.
see how that works out. That's not, an admission of guilt by any means on anybody's part, just that there is a claim against it. So we're
Right.
not seeing that. But then you see these other innovative technologies coming out of different companies that maybe people haven't heard of, some of which we rep, where no, their manufacturing processes are really innovative. They are really, really changing and reducing the failure rates of defects from the factory side. And because they're using really efficient manufacturing, they're able to keep their costs low, but still put out a premium piece of equipment that you can go in and talk to a homeowner about. Hey, this is why this is so energy efficient for your home,
Right.
how it's going to save you on energy consumption. This is also how, it's designed to increase comfort in your home in this way, this way, this way. So you can provide real value, but keep that affordability piece in the discussion. So therefore you can close more deals, you can protect margin, you keep moving. But if you're not thinking this through on what you rep, what you sell, and how to do that, then you're giving up margin. You're leaving it on the table, and you're likely going to hurt over the next couple cycles here.
Yeah. And that's as we progress through this, right? Those were the kind of the boxes that we wanted to check as we were bringing on products, right? So, for those that don't know, I mean, you've probably seen us hyping everything on, social for TCL. A lot of the content we've created has already been TCL centric, but we've got a great tool and accessory line. It's called Sourman.
Mhm.
We're working on something really cool that's going to kind of disrupt something in the space. Can't get into too much right now. But looking at the software partner that we have, Measure Quick,
Mhm.
in doing the trainings and the sales development for contractors who are using that product and helping them understand all this, it had to check boxes for us
Yep.
because let's be honest, we need to solve problems for those that we're dealing with and working with. Whether it's a distributor who wants to make sure that they have a manufacturer who's got their back. TCL is just that. There's a lot of manufacturers and so many people in the space, even on the operating side, don't understand the complexities and the nuances of all of these relationships with white label or private label stuff
Right.
that
Who makes
happens.
what? Like just
Yeah,
because there's a name on the box doesn't mean that
right.
that is
Yep.
manufactured by that.
Manufacturer, and it becomes this
Hmm.
spider web. And so when we looked at working with TCL, we said, listen, this is a straight line. This is a vertical opportunity to work with a manufacturer who, listen, for all intents and purposes, builds this stuff with friggin' robots on robots. Like
Yep.
the number of people who we've already sent to visit the operating factories in China when we just had the TCL Global Partners Conference, and our distribution partners we sent there.
Yep.
They got to ball out in China, see how that was, and see how crazy it
Right.
is. And when people wonder, like, hey, how can we buy this premium product at such an affordable price? There must be a catch. Yeah, the catch is it's built with friggin' robots, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
built in
And
a,
and that entire factory is running on an AI platform that is
yeah,
optimizing as it goes and getting better as it goes. So
yep,
there's no, instead of being a degenerative model that wears out, gets worse over time and it gets slack in it, like a lot of, our human-based manufacturing, right?
yep.
Um, Instead, that's complete iteration day to day, every day improving itself. That's a model that wins.
Yeah. And when you start thinking about all the stuff that we've been talking about, whether it's a legacy mindset, like, oh, I got to hold on to this thing. Oh, this is my favorite tool or this is my favorite brand. Like, what are they doing to help you grow your business? Like, that's the real
Right.
question that contractors and distributors have to ask themselves is what are these reps, these manufacturers, these marketing people, whatever it is, right? What are they doing
Mhm.
to help you grow and develop your business? Because if you're not getting that return, if you're not getting that support and that true partnership, then you're just a model to sell widgets. It's boxes, moving boxes, and there's no integration. And that's, I think, that's something that we saw as a big opportunity was to integrate. Like, we're not just going to sell boxes to our distributing partners. We're going to do
No,
sales training. We're going to do product training. We're going to be out there riding along, visiting with contractors and getting to know their businesses and getting to know who they are, because at the end of the day, we care about it, right?
absolutely.
We want to put tools in their hands that are reliable, dependable, that are going to help them scale their businesses faster, train new employees, get more people into the trade, right? There's a group in
Absolutely.
there's a group in Arizona that you and I have been talking with and looked at. They're doing great stuff. It's called Build Hers out in
Hmm.
Phoenix. It's a great
Yep. Great
networking group.
organization. Yep.
Yep, for women in the trades. The representation for women in the trades, I think I was looking, it's like something at like 0 point or 0.25%, something like that. If you look
Hmm.
at electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and all of those things, but it's emerging and that number has increased year over year for the last few years.
Absolutely.
And,
Yep.
bringing tools to the forefront that allow people to be trained in the trades, especially
Right.
HVAC, obviously we're partial to that, right? But
Yep.
because we rep measure quick, this allows companies to scale faster,
Absolutely.
to use a program that allows you to train new hires faster to make them more profitable as technicians, more reliable as technicians. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's, yeah, we can make money, selling on a vehicle, right, and out of a truck, but how reliable are your repairs? How reliable are your diagnoses? How reliable are your recommendations? And
Well, and
bringing
I
that
think,
product.
I think that's one of the things, especially with like MeasureQuick in particular. And obviously we have the tools line that is built to work with MeasureQuick
Yep.
for, a reason, right? It's a
Yep.
connected
Absolutely.
device line that's very innovative and forward thinking. Um, but that's part of our alignment, right? But the reality of why I believe MeasureQuick is valuable is that you can actually align all the way to the end user, the end customer, all the way back up through our distributor connections that are helping bring in MeasureQuick and sell the tools that support it. Okay, because MeasureQuick utilizes a platform of AI and connected devices to provide real-time insights as to how a unit is operating, how efficiently, whether it is broken at one step, why it's broken, or where it is breaking. It is in the process of failing. And it breaks it down into a grading system and
Hmm.
a visual representation that even, you know, Bob and Sue homeowner sitting at their kitchen table can look at it and actually educate themselves via the tech and via the technology about what's going on so they
Right.
can make a really, really good decision for themselves with a lot of knowledge. It's closing that knowledge gap. So now that you have that, you've built a level of trust between you and the technician so that the technician can confidently look at you and say, if you make this purchase, you will get blank result. If you
Right.
choose this option, you will get blank result. And there's a backing to it. So you now have aligned those interests, right? It's in the tech's best interest to close and solve that problem, right? And to close the deal, whichever, whether it's repair, whether it's replacement, whatever it is. The customer, though, always has a friction point with that, right? They're somewhat combative. They're feeling taken
Oh yeah,
advantage
dude, you're
of.
trying
They're
to jack
afraid
me
they're
on my
getting
money.
robbed. Right. Well, exactly. Right. Um, so that, meanwhile, the contractor is like, I can't be sending out guys who can't close deals and can't educate people into making the right decision for the repair or the replacement. So you've aligned all the way to the contractor. Well, now you
Hmm.
get back up to the distributor. How do they move more equipment? How do they sell more tools? How do they sell more parts and pieces for repair?
Absolutely.
By having people out there in the field who actually can educate and deliver value to a customer that benefits the customer. So they make the right decision and they stay in that sphere. So everyone
Yep.
wins if you have a technology that aligns all of the stakeholders. And again, the customer is not a target. The customer is a stakeholder in the relationship.
Right.
They just don't trust you.
Yep.
Like
Well, and it's
that's kind of the problem.
it makes me think back, like you and I are both, love him or hate him. I'm still going to tag him in it, but the NEPQ with Jeremy Minor, right?
Sure.
The dude does an amazing sales training thing, right? And I love some of the stuff that he does when he's hosting these conferences where he walks around and talks to the people who are there as the business owners. And
Hmm.
he's like, "Why should I use you?" And people are like, "Oh, I provide the best value." And then he just takes the microphone back. Goes to the next
Right.
guy. Why should I use you? We care. And he takes it back, right? It's all of these, I almost want to say they're just at this point colloquialisms for business, right? It's just
Right.
things we say. I give you the best customer service. I'm the most this. But that's
You
where
could line up
having
100 companies out of just
yeah,
one market. Pick Phoenix, for example. I could take 100
right.
companies and read their mission and value statements, the ones that are
Yeah.
big enough to have them and actually put some work into that, right?
Right.
And I'm going to tell you right now, you can distinguish 85%, maybe even 95% of them from each other. And if you pass them around
Right.
and say, pick yours, just to see how many people would actually pick the wrong one, because they're all the same
Right.
thing.
Yep. And that's where Measure Quick is such a great tool and a great equalizer in this. Because like you said, and I love that, FYI, we'll be clipping that one, but customers aren't targets. They're stakeholders, right? And when you can
Yep.
give them tangible proof, factual things, when you can show them this is something that actually sets your business apart. So whether you're a PE firm or you're a solopreneur that's just getting started, right? You know,
Hmm.
jokingly, everybody's always like, oh, chuck in a truck, right? No, man,
Right.
you are a solopreneur. Like you are an entrepreneur. You might be by yourself today, but you took
Right.
the leap of faith to build that yourself, right?
Yeah.
So whether
Yep.
you're a solo individual, building your company for your first time, there's a great owner operator in San Diego. She is building an amazing brand there, and she's doing some really cool stuff where she educates or customers, and
Right.
leading with that and differentiating yourself is going to be what wins, right? You don't have to have, just bands on bands to spend like PE firms do, or, go into insane debts, but you can use the right tools that give you the right margin, that give you the right conversions, and build and scale your business. Start thinking like a CEO, not a service tech, right?
Yep.
We hear this all the time, and I know you've coached people about this all the time, is quit building a job and build your brand and build your business, right?
Right.
because it's easy
Absolutely.
to get stuck in that quagmire of like, oh, I just built myself a job. Well, you can
Right.
go get a
Right.
job, right? But find
And
the
that might be a
tools.
better option for a lot of people,
Right?
but
Exactly.
we all
Um,
learned that the hard way, right?
yeah. And
um,
so, it's one of those things
yeah,
where I think as we check the boxes on products that we look at and products that we're looking forward to bringing in, it has to meet those criteria. Because
absolutely.
at the end of the day, we want to have people put in a position that allows them to scale and grow and allows them to be insanely profitable, even in a down economy, even in a
Correct.
questioning economy, right? Is
Well,
how
again,
do
and
we
that's a
help them
great way
get
to
over the
frame it.
hump?
It's people who are questioning, right?
Yep.
We got a lot more resources, right? I went through we were supporting a contractor in our network, buying from our distributors, et cetera, the other day, who was like, man, this person pulled a bunch of stuff off of AI. Now, a lot of it was not factual. It's like, okay,
Right.
great. Here's the problem. AI has more authority than you. Chat GPT knows more about AC than you, supposedly, right?
Right.
And to a degree, it does. Doesn't mean it
Yeah.
always gets the conclusion right. And so the problem is, it's like I was helping them work through. It's like, no, you got to respond to this way. You have to educate the customer about where AI hallucinated, where it failed, where it was wrong, and incorrectly interpreting information, right? Um, and he won that sale, got through it, took care of the customer because he was able to stop and take time. That's the other thing is a lot of people don't stop and take time. Um, you know, the other thing is like, bring that up back up to the distributor. It goes the same way there though, right? So it's not the tech with the conversation at the kitchen table. It's the counter guy or the outside sales guy talking to contractors, right? If you just got order takers and quoters, you're not going to grow in this economy. You're not going to be able to because you're not able to meet the contractor who is now your customer, right? So same thing. They're not your target, they're your stakeholder. They need your support. They need you to align with them and what they need, but they may not even really understand what they need. Yeah. So, when contractors have to, collaborate with AI, contend with AI, all of those things, you're thinking about this very just innovative forward movement. We talked about how, private equity is investing into this space with that, right? Both at the distribution level and systems there, all the way down to the contractor level, the systems there. All of that, there's such a huge learning curve and there's so much opportunity to really help contractors and really help distributors out understanding that. And so that's one of those things where, we're becoming collaborating through fact advisors, in this space. We're going to start releasing content. We're going to start releasing tools and advisory solutions, some free online, everything else through our socials, to really support and move this ecosphere forward, right? Because again, there is a huge bright future out there, even in a restrictive economy, where guys can grow, girls can grow. We can get more margin, more business, build profitable businesses, serve our communities better, and really, really just take that next step to the next generation of the industry. And I think that that's going to be very important. I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm excited. Thanks for tuning in. Hope it was educational and everything. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all of our socials. We've got a lot more content coming very shortly here and a big production schedule ahead. So we've got a lot of great stuff coming down. So make sure you're following so you see it in your feed.